Welcome to the Chinese Lore Podcast, where I retell classic Chinese stories in English. This is episode 55 of Journey to the West. Last time, while crossing another mountain, Sun Wukong went off to find food, and then the rest of the pilgrims did exactly the opposite of what he told them to do, and essentially went looking for trouble. Well, congratulations. They found it and fell into the clutches of the demon Rhino King. Wukong went head-to-head against the demon, but the Rhino King turned out to be pretty powerful and even took away Sun Wukong's golden rod. Wukong thought that this guy might be some celestial government bureaucrat who slipped down from heaven, so he went to see the Jade Emperor and demanded a head count. But apparently, all the people in the Jade Emperor's employ were accounted for. So Wukong settled for borrowing some celestial forces to go help him take on the Rhino King again. Accompanied by the celestial commander Li Jing and his son, Lotus Boy Ne Jia, Wukong returned to Golden Pocket Mountain, the home of the Rhino King. Once the celestial army set up on the southern slope of the mountain, Li Jing said to Wukong, "My son Ne Jia once tamed the demons of 96 caves. He is adept at transformations and carries demon-taming weapons with him. Let him take the first battle." "Alright, then let me accompany him," Wukong agreed. So Ne Jia and Wukong went to the entrance of Golden Pocket Cave. They saw the doors were shut. Wukong stepped forth and shouted, "Damn demon! Open up at once and return my master!" The demon lackey watching the door quickly reported to the Rhino King that Sun Wukong and a boy are challenging for battle outside. "I took that monkey's rod. He must have gone and recruited some reinforcements. Bring my weapon," the Rhino King ordered. Taking his spear in hand, he went outside and saw Wukong accompanied by a young boy with a handsome, refined, and unusual appearance. The boy's face was round and radiant as the full moon. His vermilion lips and square mouth revealed gleaming silver teeth. His eyes flashed like lightning, his pupils bursting with fierce brilliance. His broad forehead glowed with rosy light beneath a tightly bound topknot. His embroidered sash danced in the wind like flying tongues of colored flame. His brocade robe, shining in the sun, scattered blossoms of golden light. The bright rings and tassels reflected from his chest plate, and his precious armor glittered above his battle boots. The Rhino King chuckled. "You are Li Jing's third son, Ne Jia. Why are you shouting outside my door?" "Because you, unruly demon, dare to harm the sage monk from the east," Ne Jia shot back. "On the Jade Emperor's command, I have come to apprehend you." "Sun Wukong must have recruited you," the Rhino King said angrily. "And yes, I did capture that monk. What skills does a little boy like you have? How dare you speak so recklessly? Stand still and taste my spear." Ne Jia raised his demon-slaying sword, and the Rhino King hoisted his spear as they faced off. While they fought, Wukong hurried around the hill and shouted, "Gods of Thunder, where are you? Hurry up and go strike down that demon with your thunderbolts and help Ne Jia." The two members of the Department of Thunder who had been dispatched with the expedition now flew overhead, and they were about to cast their thunderbolts. But then they saw Ne Jia working his magic and sprouting 3 heads and 6 arms, with each of his 6 hands wielding a weapon. But the Rhino King countered likewise and also sprouted 3 heads and 6 arms, wielding 3 long spears. Ne Jia now hurled all 6 of his weapons at the Rhino King. These were a sword, a knife, a cord, a staff, a brocade ball, and his fire wheels. As he threw them, he shouted, "Change!" And the 6 weapons turned into 10,000 and flew at the demon. But the Rhino King showed no signs of fear. He pulled out his white ring again, threw it into the air, and shouted, "Strike!" And just like that, all 6 of Ne Jia's weapons were snatched away. Left bare-handed, Ne Jia hurriedly fled, and the Rhino King returned to his cave. Watching this from above, the 2 thunder gods chuckled and said to each other, "Good thing we took a look first before unleashing our thunderbolts. If that demon also snatched those away, how could we report back to the Jade Emperor?" Ne Jia returned to the Celestial Army's camp and told his father, "That demon really is powerful." But Sun Wukong chuckled from the side. Oh, that fiend's magic is only so-so. It's just that ring of his that's a handful. I wonder what kind of treasure it is that can snatch anything. Naja was quite annoyed by that remark and said, Great sage, that's not cool. We all suffer defeat and worry for your sake. Why are you laughing instead? You talk about worry. Do you think I don't worry? Wukong retorted. I have no idea what to do next, so I'm just laughing to keep from crying. So how should we proceed? Li Jing now cut in. We need to find something that the ring can't snatch away, Wukong said. That would defeat him. Well, water and fire are the least likely to be snatchable by a ring, Li Jing suggested. As the saying goes, water and fire are blind. Quite right. You all wait a bit. Let me go up to heaven again, Wukong said. The thunder gods asked him where he was going, and Wukong told them, I'm not going to bother the Jade Emperor this time. I'll just go to the Palace of Crimson Splendor and ask the Fire Virtue Star Lord of Mars to come unleash a blaze to burn that demon. Maybe it can even reduce that ring to ashes. Then we can capture that demon, return your weapons so you can go home, and rescue my master. Naja agreed with that idea, and he bade Wukong to hurry up. So Wukong flew up to the southern gate of heaven. There, he was greeted by one of the 4 heavenly kings and his entourage once again. Wukong told them what happened and why he was back, so they let him through. He went to the Crimson Splendor Palace, where the gods of the Department of Fire welcomed him and announced him to the Fire Virtue Star, aka Mars. Mars came out to greet him and said, I did a head count of my department yesterday, and nobody here even thinks about going to the mortal realm. Oh, I know, but Commander Li Jing and his son lost their battle and their weapons, so I came to ask you for help. But that Naja is a high-level god. He once tamed the demons of 96 caves and has great powers. If he couldn't beat that demon, what can I possibly do? We were strategizing with Commander Li, and he said that among heaven and earth, nothing is more powerful than water and fire. That demon has a ring that can snatch away objects. I don't know what it is, but we think fire can destroy it. So I have come to ask you to lead your forces to go burn that demon and save my master. Mars agreed and promptly mobilized the forces of the Department of Fire. They accompanied Wukong back to Golden Pocket Mountain and met up with the First Celestial Army. Li Jing suggested that Wukong go challenge for battle again, and then the fire gods would do their thing. So Wukong went to knock on the door once more, while Mars, Naja, and the 2 thunder gods watched from a high peak. When the Rhino King heard that Sun Wukong was back, he went out with his lackeys and asked, Damn monkey! Who have you recruited now? Li Jing now stepped forth and shouted, Damn demon, do you know me? Commander Li, you must be here to avenge your son and ask for his weapons back, right? The Rhino King laughed. That's part of it, but I am also here to capture you and save the Tang monk. Stand still and taste my blade, Li Jing shouted as he attacked. The 2 now went at it in front of the cave, engaging in a fierce back and forth. While they fought, Sun Wukong leaped up to the peak and told Mars to do his thing. Down below, the Rhino King was starting to pull out his magic ring again. Li Jing saw this and quickly retreated. Meanwhile, Mars ordered his Department of Fire to unleash their powers. A surge of flames roared as it shot toward the Rhino King, but he just hurled his ring skyward, and with a whoosh, all the fire instruments were sucked in by the ring. And the Rhino King again went home victorious. All Mars had left now was a command flag in his hand. He summoned back his troops and regrouped with the rest of the gang. He told Wukong, Great sage, that demon is a true rarity. We have lost all our fire instruments. Now what? Wukong laughed. No need to gripe. Please sit, and I'll be back soon. Where are you off to now? Li Jing asked. Well, since that demon is not afraid of fire, he must be afraid of water. As the saying goes, water beats fire. Let me go to the north gate of heaven and ask the Water Virtue Star Lord. He can unleash a flood to drown that demon in his cave, and then we can get your stuff back. That sounds like a good idea, but what about your master? Won't he drown too? Li Jing asked. Oh, no worries. If he drowns, I have ways to bring him back to life. Anyway, I shouldn't keep you all waiting. So Wukong now flew up to the north gate of heaven. After the usual courtesies with another set of celestial doormen, he went to the vast black palace and was greeted by the Water Virtue Star Lord. The Water Star told Wukong, "Yesterday I was told to do a head count. I was worried that it was somebody from my department causing trouble. I'm in the middle of going through the rows of all the gods of the rivers and seas. I'm not quite done yet." "That Demon King isn't any river god, but something more powerful," Wukong said. "Previously, Li Jing and Ne Zha, along with 2 thunder gods, went to capture him, but his ring took away 6 weapons. So then I went and recruited Mars and the Department of Fire to burn him, but then all their fire instruments got snatched away. I figured, if that demon is impervious to fire, he must be vulnerable to water. So I have come to ask you to use your water powers to capture that demon, return the weapons to the Celestial Generals, and save my master." The Water Star now summoned the god of the Yellow River and told him to go help Wukong. The Yellow River god pulled out a white jade bowl from his sleeve and said, "I use this to carry water." "How much water can that thing hold? How can it drown that demon?" Wukong said skeptically. "Great sage, to tell you the truth, this bowl holds all the water of the Yellow River. Half a bowl is equal to half the water in the river, and a full bowl is all the water from the river." "Oh, then only half a bowl would be plenty," Wukong said with delight. He and the Yellow River god hurriedly departed heaven. They stopped off at the Yellow River, where the Yellow River god scooped up half of the water in the river. Sorry, all of you mortals who were counting on that river's water for your livelihoods. Anyway, they went to Golden Pocket Mountain, and Wukong told the Yellow River god, "Come with me. Once I get them to open the door, don't wait for them to come out. Just pour the water into the cave and drown that whole nest of demons. Then I will go fetch my master's corpse and revive him." So Wukong went to knock, and the Rhino King opened the door, and the Yellow River god emptied his bowl in the direction of the cave entrance. Seeing this flood coming at him, the Rhino King dropped his spear, took out his ring, and put it in the doorway. When the flood hit the ring, instead of going into the cave, it flowed back out and started flooding the area around the cave. Wukong hurriedly took to the air and flew to a high peak with the Yellow River god. The rest of the celestial forces joined them there and watched. They saw half the water of the Yellow River flowing freely and covering the land. "Oh crap," Wukong said. "This water is spreading and could flood peasants' fields. And it's not even touching the demon's cave." He told the Yellow River god to retract the water at once. But the Yellow River god was like, retract? "I only know how to unleash the water, but not how to take it back," he said. "As the saying goes, once you spill water, you can't take it back." What kind of second-rate river god are you? Anyway, they could only watch the water flow every which way. And since they were on a mountain, all the water soon flowed away from the high ground, so the area around the cave was dry once more. So dry, in fact, that some demon lackeys came out and started prancing around, and the Rhino King laughed and said, "That water didn't even get into our cave! What a waste of effort!" Sun Wukong felt the rage surging inside him. He leaped to the cave entrance and tried to beat the lackeys bare-fisted. The lackeys dropped their weapons, ran inside, and told the Rhino King. He came out with spear in hand and said, "Damn monkey! You haven't been able to beat me in all these battles. Even fire and water couldn't touch me. Why are you here to seek death again?" "You have it backwards," Wukong shot back. "I'm not the one seeking death. You are. Come here and taste my fist." But the Rhino King laughed. "This monkey is such a pest. I'm using a spear, but he's only got his fists, and they're like the size of walnuts. Fine. I'll put down my spear and trade fisticuffs with you." "Sounds good, let's go," Wukong said. So the Rhino King tucked in his shirt and attacked with his bare fists, which looked like iron mallets. Wukong countered, and they started going at it. From atop a peak, the celestial forces looked on and cheered as they watched a dazzling display of martial skills on both sides. And then they leaped down to help Wukong, but the demon lackeys took them on. Seeing that neither side had the upper hand, Wukong pulled off a handful of fur, tossed them into the air, and shouted, "Change!" The monkey hairs turned into about 50 little monkeys. They surrounded the Rhino King and started pulling on his legs, yanking down his arms, wrapping around his waist, and clawing at his eyes. The Rhino King couldn't take this, so he pulled out his ring, and just like that, all 50 little monkeys got sucked into the ring. And the Rhino King and his lackeys returned to the cave, victorious once more. When Sun Wukong regrouped with the celestial forces, who had fled at the first sight of the demon's ring, Lotus Boy Ne Zha told him, "Great sage, you're truly a hero. Your bare-handed fighting skills were like flowers embroidered on brocade. You really showed your stuff." "Y'all were watching from afar. How did that demon's skills compare with mine?" Wukong asked with a laugh, obviously fishing for more compliments. "Oh, his movements were slow, not nimble like you, great sage," Li Jing said. "When he saw us joining the fight, he started to worry, and then when you used your magic, he panicked and used his ring again." "That demon is easy to deal with. It's the ring that's hard," Wukong said. Mars and the Yellow River God now said, "We must get that treasure of his before we can capture him." "But how? The only way is to steal it," Wukong said. The two Thunder Gods chuckled. "Well, when it comes to stealing, no one is better than you, great sage. When you caused a ruckus in heaven, you stole celestial wine, immortal peaches, dragon liver, phoenix marrow, and even Lao Tzu's magic pills. What great thieving skills you have. You should use them today." "No problem. In that case, you all have a seat, and let me go take a quick look." So Wukong leaped down from the peak, turned into a fly, and slipped through a crack in the cave door. He saw a bunch of demon lackeys, singing and dancing on two sides, while the Rhino King sat high and mighty on his throne on a platform. In front of him were platters of snake meat, deer liver, bear paw, camel hump, and mountain fruits. There were also a Celadon wine bottle and fragrant goat cheese and coconut milk for all to feast on. Wukong now flew into the throng of lackeys and turned into a badger demon. He mixed in with the crowd and slowly made his way toward the platform where the Rhino King was seated. But he saw no sign of the magic ring. He then turned to the back of the platform. There, he saw the various objects that had been snatched away by the ring. Suddenly, he looked up and saw his golden rod leaning against the east wall. Now this was a sight for sore eyes. He went over, grabbed the rod, turned back into himself, and started bashing his way out of the cave. The Rhino King was caught off guard, and before he knew it, Sun Wukong had already fled the cave, leaving a bloody path of dead demon lackeys in his wake. Once he was outside, Sun Wukong leaped back up to the peak where the celestial forces were waiting. Li Jing saw how joyous Sun Wukong was and asked how it went. Wukong told him what happened and how he got his rod back, and the gods asked, so when are we getting our stuff back?" "No problem," Wukong reassured them. "Now that I have my rod, no matter what, I'm going to smack that demon down and return your treasures." Just then, they heard the sound of drums and gongs down below. It was the Rhino King and his lackeys coming after Wukong. "Perfect," Wukong said. "Just what I wanted. Y'all sit and let me go capture him." He flew down, swung his staff, and shouted, "Damn demon, don't you run!" The Rhino King parried his blow and cursed, "Damn monkey thief, you're too rude. How can you steal my stuff?" "You damn beast, you took all that stuff with your ring. Which one of those items was actually yours? Stand still and taste my rod." The two of them now went at it again. They fought fiercely for 6 hours, and still neither had the upper hand. It was starting to get late. The Rhino King shouted, "Sun Wukong, stop! It's getting dark. Not good for fighting. Let's both get some rest and go at it again tomorrow." "Oh, enough with that nonsense. I'm feeling it right now, so who cares if it's dark? I must have it out with you right now." But the Rhino King feigned a thrust and retreated into the cave, shutting the door tightly behind him. Wukong returned to the peak, where the gods praised him. "You're truly something. There is no end to your skills." "Oh, that's too much," Wukong laughed. But Li Jing said, "No, it's the truth. You're truly a hero. That fight was on par with when you defeated all our forces." "Oh, never mind that for now. That demon must be tired after that fight. You all have a seat. Let me go back into the cave to find his ring. I have to steal it, capture that demon, get your weapons back, and let you all report back to heaven." "But it's late," Ne Zha said. "Why don't you rest tonight and then go tomorrow morning?" "Oh, you really don't know anything about the world, young man," Wukong laughed. "What thief does his thieving in broad daylight? That kind of shenanigans must happen at night without anybody knowing." A couple of the other gods now told Ne Zha, "Say no more. We don't know about such dealings, but the great sage is an old hand at it. Let him go while the Demon King is tired and while it's dark." Wukong laughed, put away his rod, leaped down to the cave, and slipped inside in the form of a cricket. He skipped over to the foot of a wall and looked carefully. He saw a group of lackeys wolfing down food. After a short while, they finished feasting, put away their stuff, and went to bed. It was now about 7 p.m. Wukong hopped to the back and heard the Rhino King telling his men, "Keep a tight watch at all the doorways. That Sun Wukong might turn into something else and come in and steal stuff again." So, a bunch of sentries sat up and kept watch. Wukong, meanwhile, went into the Rhino King's quarters. There, he saw a stone bed. A few dolled-up female demons were helping the Rhino King disrobe and get ready for bed. Once his clothes were off, Wukong could see that the ring was wrapped tightly around his left shoulder, like a linked ring bracelet. The Rhino King didn't even remove it for bed. Instead, he wrapped it tightly around his shoulder and lay down on the stone bed. Wukong now turned into a flea, hopped onto the bed, slipped under the covers, crawled onto the demon's left shoulder, and bit him. The Rhino King flipped over and cursed, "These damn servants! I must not be beating them enough. They didn't even clean this bed. What just bit me?" But instead of taking the ring off to scratch his itch, he tightened it up even more and lay back down. But Wukong crawled onto the ring and bit his shoulder once more. The demon flipped over again and said, "Oh, it's so itchy." But still, he did not take the ring off. Seeing that the demon was not about to put down his magic MacGuffin, Wukong gave up on trying to steal it for the moment. He hopped off the bed, turned back into a cricket, left the room, and headed farther to the back of the cave. He found all the fire instruments hanging in another room, so he turned into his true form, broke into the room with a lock-breaking spell, and then uttered an incantation that brought all the hanging fire instruments down from the rafters. When he entered another room, he saw that it was lit up from the glow of the magic weapons that belonged to Ne Zha. They were leaning against the wall. He looked around some more and found a tray on a stone table which held the monkey hairs that the Rhino King had taken from him. Delighted, Wukong grabbed the hairs, blew on them, and said, "Change!" The hairs turned into about 50 little monkeys again, and Wukong told them to carry all the swag from the rooms. He then used the fire instruments for their intended purposes, and a roaring blaze broke out inside the cave. The demon lackeys fell into a panic as they were startled from their slumber. They tried to hide under their blankets, but to no avail. Amid howling cries, more than half of the lackeys were burned to death. Around midnight, the celestial forces waiting on the peak saw a fiery glow approaching. They saw Wukong riding on a fire dragon, leading a troop of little monkeys and shouting to them, "Come get your weapons! Come get your weapons!" Mars and Ne Zha hurried forward. Wukong retracted his monkey hairs, and the gods claimed their respective items and praised him to no end. Inside Golden Pocket Cave, it was a different story. The Rhino King hurried out of his room and rushed to and fro, using his magic ring to put out the fires. By the time he was done, he was standing in a smoldering cave filled with smoke and charred bodies. More than half of his lackeys were dead, and he had barely 100 left. And then he went to the rooms where he kept the stuff that he had snatched away from the gods, and found that they were all gone. He then rushed to the back of the cave, and was relieved to find that Sanzang, Zhu Bajie, and Sha Zeng were still tied up, along with the horse and the luggage. Seething, the Rhino King said to his lackeys, "Which of you didn't pay attention and started the fire that caused all this damage?" One of the lackeys said, "My lord, this wasn't our doing. It must be that monkey thief. He must have started the fire and made off with the stuff." Yes, it must be that thief Sun Wukong, the Rhino King fumed. I was not careful enough before going to bed. That monkey must have slipped in here in another form. He was the one who bit me twice on my shoulder. He must have been after my treasure. But then he saw that I had a tight hold on it, so he stole the weapons and set the fires with the wicked intent of burning me alive. Damn monkey thief! You went through all that effort, but you don't know my powers. As long as I have this treasure, I won't get wet in the ocean and I won't get burned in a fire. If I ever catch you, I'll chop you into pieces. When dawn came on the mountain peak, Lotus Boy Nezha said to Wukong, Great Sage, it's getting light out. Let's not delay. While that demon's morale is shaken, let's use the fire instruments to help you and go fight him again. This time, we will capture him. Quite right, Wukong agreed. Let's unite and go have some fun with him. So all the gods accompanied Wukong to the cave entrance, and he demanded battle once more. The stone doors had been reduced to ash by the fire and heat. A few lackeys were busy sweeping up the ash when they saw all the gods show up. They dropped their brooms, ran inside, and told their leader. The Rhino King seethed with anger. He took his ring and his spear and stomped outside. To see how this latest fight will go, tune in to the next episode of the Chinese Lore Podcast. Thanks for listening.